Okay, hello, my name is Amelia Carnes. I'm going to be doing a podcast on Circe today. Um, I first want to start off with saying that I really love this character in Greek myth. Like, I think she's a badass person, but I think it's it's quite the argument because it comes into question of her like morality about things, because she does use her powers, but she uses them in a way that some people think that might be they're just unethical or just not cool. But I'll get into the argument a little bit later. But I kind of just want to start off with saying who Circe is, what's her background. So she is the daughter of Sol, which is, sun god. She's a powerful human being. And honestly, I just think she's a badass because she gets all her powers and she creates potions and stuff. But here's the thing: is I think in the metamorphosis, Circe meets this dude named Glaucus. Glaucus seeks her help to fall in love with this girl named Celia. He wants Celia to fall in love with him. So he goes to Circe and he asks Circe, "Hey, yo, help me. I need this girl with me. I just love her so much." And Circe's like, "Hey, yo, like, what about me? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need her. Like, you got me." And he's like, "No, I'd rather have Celia." And so Circe gets pissed off, and which is understandable. I mean, she got rejected by the dude, but she goes and she gets this potion, and she makes this potion, and she goes to the bathing waters with Celia and pours the potion into the water, and waits for Celia to come bathe. So once Celia gets in there, dogs start to eat her lower half and become her lower half of her body, which is quite crazy and weird if you think about it, which it later pops up to be that Celia becomes a sea monster and is quite a problem for a couple of people. But the fact that why would Circe do that? Again, she got rejected. There is a valid reason, but is it probably the best idea? No. I mean, you don't really turn people into monsters if they upset you, even though she didn't even know her, you know what I mean? But it's just, she did it for her own sake, I guess. I feel like she seeks validation from men, even though she is this very powerful goddess. And it's weird to me. I don't know, because she's such a dominant power, and she just seeks the validation. Maybe it's because everybody fears her, that she wants to feel as if she belongs, that she doesn't want to feel that everybody fears her in the way that, everybody just doesn't understand her. And then there's also in the Odyssey where the Odysseus's men show up on the beach, and then they go up to her house and eat her food. But the food turns out to be poisoned by her potion, of course, and they all turn into animals of some sort. I mean, there's a lot of different depictions of this, and I've seen this in all the calyx craters and all the different vases that in ancient Greece that they used made out of terracotta. They painted that one dude had a donkey head, the other one had a pig's head. They all had different heads, but it's all the same. It's kind of depicting this manner of that men are pigs, and this is kind of unusual for the time, I guess. I'm thinking because it's such a patriarchal society in ancient Greece. Like, there was not a lot of, I mean, women were valued too, but not to the extremity that men were. There was always male emperors, and like it wasn't until later that the female empresses came into play. But it was just, yeah. So I don't know. I think that was interesting as well. I think I'm gonna make that point in there. I'm trying to figure out. Let's see here. Like, why does she do this? I'm gonna come back to this. Her dominance, her dominant power. So why does she try to seek this validation? Why is that fear there? Like, everybody fears what is not understood, and I think that's a huge thing too nowadays. Is is religion and, this magic. People really don't understand other people's opinions, and I think that's a big problem nowadays too. Is that people go from what's religion to worshiping something and highly believing in something to fearing something that's different than their values. So it's like, do they fear Circe? Do they feel her magic? And is it just because they live in a society where it's so normalized to worship a god? It's so normalized to have this religion based in their society. I just thought that was super interesting because it's just like, why would you fear something like that? Like, I think it's harder to accept it than people. I think it's harder for people to accept that. Let me see what else. I think she's just such a strong. I'm kind of biased on this too as well. I will put that in there that I am biased on this because I truly appreciate the women, Greek goddesses, and I really appreciate the magic side of it because it's so unusual. You usually see, goddesses born with these certain powers, but you never see them creating their own potions. You never see them creating all this stuff. They just naturally have that power within them to do all this stuff, like Athena and Artemis and all those other Greek goddesses. It's just that people like Hecate and Circe are so different than the rest of them. I think this relates to nowadays with like, even with like Roe v. Wade, when it got overturned, it was such a huge deal, and all these women banded together, and it became a dominant power over men because, we're not going to let our rights escape in the grasp of a man. I think that was the same way in ancient Greece. It was just like a whole thing of a patriarchal society, the patriarchy, that women want to come into play. You know what I mean? I think women wanted to play a bigger role, even though they were slightly respected, that they wanted to play a bigger role in society and political actions, right? And I think, even with that, and then take into account also Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's a strong, powerful woman, and a lot of people fear her, and a lot of people attack her just because they're afraid of this change. They're afraid of this beautiful, strong, independent woman with power coming into play. I think there's a lot of, with the stories, that Circe is depicted as a beautiful, strong, beautiful woman, but she's just so feared because of the negative connotation of her powers. It really relates back to today, that strong women are feared for what they can do and not what they are. I don't know. I think that is what I'm going to leave that with, and what you believe about the power and morality of her usage of her power. She also did use it to save Odysseus as well. It wasn't just for her own sake. She did use it for the greater good. So it comes into play. Is it good? Is it bad? I think it's all up to perspective, and I think it's all up for you to decide that. But that is my argument about that.